So when we're looking at fonts, these are uppercase fonts. We want to be mindful of the different types of fonts that there are, and they're just general ways of describing them. And depending on what website you go to peruse for fonts, which are actually files that you can install on your computer, oftentimes you have to pay a hefty sum of money for them. Avoid free fonts at all costs, because you never know what demons are coming along with them. But they'll generally be categorized in a certain way, but let's just try and understand the different attributes of a font. Okay, I have an awkward edit there, but I'm going to move on. Okay, so let's look at serif fonts. Serifs are little feet on a font character. These are all serif fonts, and what they bear in common, among other things, is that they have little feet on them called serifs. Comes from the Dutch schrift, which means a fine line in writing. And the serif has a very important function actually when it comes to readability. Most books that you read have serif fonts because it actually, when you're reading fine print, those feet help you guide your way along a line of text on a densely printed page. It's important that you know exactly where your eye needs to return to. They often have thin and thick letter strokes, and they actually originate from chiseled stone from antiquity, basically in Rome and whatnot, carved into the buildings, Populus Romanus, etc., and have had a profound influence on how we design letters today. And they're, like I said, ideal for small printed material and are not ideal for small screen print. The serifs lose detail or they sometimes pixelate. Sans serif fonts have no feet. Sans means French, without. Less contrast in thick and thin, and they emphasize the baseline of your text and they keep your focus. They do not tend to pixelate so much on screen, and they're ideal for presentation graphics. But I will tell you, in terms of content, don't be scared to use a serif font as an accent word in oversized type because they are so classic. Going back to the previous serif fonts, classical fonts, academic fonts. When we're thinking of classical things, serif fonts work very well for that. Whereas sans serif is more of a modern font, not as classical. So if you're thinking about putting a slide together, you're going to want to lean towards the sans serif fonts for your body text, as I have done here. But I felt comfortable using the serif font up above. Okay, let's see. Script fonts, basically, they emulate script, written script or calligraphy, etc. They're distinguished by flowing lines and flourished edges, and they, like I said, imitate handwritten script. And what I would definitely tell you, avoid using script for body content or for substantial amounts of text. Use them for single words, oversized, etc. They just suggest an idea, but presentation design, remember, is very practical. The novice designer, the inexperienced designer looks incompetent when they use script fonts to deliver important information on a slide. This is acceptable. It creates interest here, but if I was to use this particular font here, you'd be pretty mad at me by the end of the first slide. Difficult to read. They're often unique to your system and should be packaged when you move your design material to a vendor or to be presented or to another machine. So use them cautiously in presentations because they too will pixelate very easily. Display fonts. Think of something in lights. Think of something large and in charge. We can look at fonts that are on the side of buildings or that create a sense of a brand. They're bold, they emphasize, they usually have some unique quality to them or have overtones of something else. This sort of has a cavemanish quality, this particular font. This is papyrus, and this font evokes a certain sort of ancient feel. Used for single words alone or on single lines. Again, display fonts are not meant to communicate like this font here. Great for title text boxes, and they can overwhelm if they're used in excess. So in typesetting, less is more. And also contrast. So I would not say I'm the best typesetter around. Like I said, I have many jobs and design is only one of them, but using a serif font with a sans serif font to create contrast. So for example, here's a type style sheet. So display font type title, subtitle, put your bullets in a sans serif font and then your picture over here. It's one way to think about it. Notice again my sans serif font in the bullets. And when you have fonts, your recommended versions of fonts, this is kind of obsolete now. I made this about 10 years ago, but TrueType is one of the fonts that with the TTF and PostScript is Macintosh friendly. And then there's OTF, OpenType, which I believe moves between the platforms pretty easily. What's on your system will generally work so long as you keep your PowerPoint on that system. And if you're sending your PowerPoint to someone else, check and see what operating system they're using, Mac versus PC, and also make sure that you send them your fonts from your computer. Because like I said, when you're thinking about your fonts, your typefaces, you have to think of fonts on your computer like your own personal wardrobe. You may send your presentation over there, but the fonts will not be with the presentation unless you send it to your friend. Got it? Okay, that's enough for now.